Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call today's meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, June 14th, 2016. Looks like it's about 7:05 p.m. Our first item is the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd ask that everyone please stand. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jessica, substituting for Sherby this evening, would you please call the roll?
Present.
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 President, we do have a quorum this evening. I did receive two calls, one from Trustee Calcagno that explained his absence, and also Trustee Stecker will be late, so he will be here this evening. Okay, our next item is presentations. If I could ask Trustee Celestino to step up in front. Also, our Public Works Director, Robert Lewis, and Deputy Lewis Clerk, Jessica Spencer, please step to the middle. I received a letter yesterday, as a matter of fact, and that's why it wasn't on the agenda for presentation. But for the past couple of years, Westchester's been trying to be what's known as a tree city. And I think Carl indicated there are several hundred in the state of Illinois. But for some odd reason, Westchester either didn't make the cut or didn't follow all the rules or didn't have all of what the state needed for us to have an Arbor Day flag at our village and on our signs. So I did receive this yesterday. It says, Dear Tree City USA supporter, on behalf of the Arbor Day Foundation, I write to congratulate Westchester on earning recognition as a 2005 Tree City USA. Residents of Westchester should be proud to live in a community that makes the planting and care of trees a priority. Westchester is one of more than 3,400 Tree City USAs with a combined population of 140 million. Started in 1976, the Tree City USA program, sponsored by the Arbor Day Foundation in partnership with the U.S. Forest Service and the National Association of State Foresters, is celebrating its 40th anniversary year. As a result of your commitment to effective urban forest management, you already know trees are vital to the public infrastructure of cities and towns throughout the country, providing numerous environmental, social, economic benefits. In fact, trees are the one piece of community infrastructure that actually increases in value over time. We hope you're excited to share this accomplishment. In closing this packet, we have a press release which we were contacting Suburban Life and the Doings today for our convenience to contact the local media. State foresters are responsible for the presentation of a Tree City USA flag and other materials. That information arrived today. So there is a flag that we will be erecting over by the fountain. And what we're going to do is certainly next year at our Arbor Day presentation, we'll mention that we are a tree city. So again, we celebrate your commitment to public trees in Westchester, and thank you for helping to create a healthier planet for all of us. Regards, Dan Lambie, who is the president of the Arbor Day Foundation. So, without further ado, there were a number of people that were involved in this. But the spearheads were certainly Trustee Carl Celestino, with the help of staff, with Jessica Spencer, in putting all the documentation together. Robert Lewis, our Public Works Director, albeit it took a couple of years.
And we actually have one other person. This was first started by the Environmental Sustainability Commission. This was brought up in our meeting, then brought forth to the village, and through the village's help, this is where we all came. And we actually have one of our commission members here. That's why I asked you, Gene. Surprise! Would you like to come? This was work done by many people. Mr. Lewis and the public works staff, Jessica Spencer, the administrative assistant, and deputy clerk, Mayor Puglia, we all worked to get this done, and unfortunately it took 2 years for them to finally get the distinction. Now that we've got it, we are part of an elite group. There are only about 174 communities in Illinois that have gotten this distinction, and only 3,400 in the United States. So with this, it's going to be a big deal, and this is something that the community did, and now we as a community will be able to benefit from.
And certainly, all the trustees that are sitting behind had a part and parcel of this, but this grew out of the environmental committee of which Carl was in charge. So this is a total village effort with all of the village staff, and certainly all the trustees that are here today, and those that aren't here as well, Angelo and Nick had a part in all of this. So we'll present this to you guys for all your hard work. And back. Congratulations to all. We will hang this up, and I guess in the front hall someplace, or prominent locations, so everyone can see. I'll let you hold on to it for the rest of the evening. Be like your baby. Here we go. And thank you very much.
You.
Before we get rolling with our public comments and questions, I think it's appropriate, based on the incidents over the past weekend in Orlando, Florida, to make a few comments with that. If you all passed the sign coming in that our prayers are with Orlando, and we're certainly against hate of any form, any type of people throughout the country and throughout the world as well. And I felt obligated yesterday to send an email to the mayor, Mayor Buddy Dwyer, and I sent him the email that said, "Please accept this email as one of sorrow and support for the city of Orlando. As mayor of the village of Westchester, Illinois, a suburb of Chicago, I know, having lost a cousin, an FDNY firefighter, on September 11th, what thoughts must be going on in the minds of all the citizens in your city, our country, and the world. Our thoughts and prayers of the entire village staff and the 17,000 residents are with you." I also indicated, as a retired officer myself, having 2 sons and nephews in Chicago, I wanted to compliment their chief, John Mina, and the sheriff's department for their quick response and ultimately saving the lives of many others due to their prompt actions when negotiations appeared futile. Your words of resolve and healing will make your city stronger. Your leadership has not gone unnoticed from a mayor 988 miles away. God bless for myself and certainly all of you. I didn't think I'd get a response. I sent that early in the morning, like 8 o'clock or so, and by 11 o'clock, I did get a response from Mayor Dwyer's office. Thank you for your kind words of support. I'm sorry to learn of your cousin who gave his life in service of others. I know you must share the same pride that I do in the heroism of our country's first responders, which I do. Yesterday was the most horrific day in the history of the city of Orlando, and yet today I'm even more proud of our community because they came together, united to support the families and friends of the victims. We learned of the heroic acts of our Orlando Police Department and other law enforcement, as well as our citizens, as hundreds of lives were saved throughout the night. The medical personnel that saved so many lives that were transported to the hospital are heroes. I am proud of our city, of how our city has responded to this tragedy and the dedication our city continues to show. We will not be defined by the act of a cowardly hater. We will be defined on how we respond and how we treat each other. Buddy Dwyer, mayor. So I'd ask for a moment of silence for all the victims, the 49 who perished. I understand that there's another 6 still in critical condition of the 53 that were taken to the hospital, and I'm sure all of us have been watching the news since this has happened, learning the updates and trying to figure out why this individual decided to do what he did, and how we can better protect ourselves in the future and stop this craziness. Thank you, everybody. Okay, our next item this evening is public comments and questions. To give as many visitors as possible an opportunity to speak in the interest of adjourning by 9, please limit your comments to 3 minutes in length unless further time is granted by the board on active or general matters. I do understand that in our committee of the whole, we have a presentation by the Michaels Group in St. Joseph's High School. I see there's a whole host of folks here from that. So are there any questions? There'll be a public participation in it in the committee of the whole as well. So is there anything that we can address ahead of time, or if generally most of the questions are going to be relative to the Michaels Group in St. Joseph's, we could probably ask those in the appropriate committee of the whole time period and go from there. So other than a St. Joe Michael Group, is there a question for us? Once, twice, 3 times. Okay, now hearing nothing, I will go down to item number 6 in the consent agenda. Approval of the record of bills ending 6/9/16 in the amount not to exceed $917,758.51. We also have approval of the minutes of April 12th, 2016 Board and Committee of the Whole. I understand items 3, 4, 5, and 6, as far as minutes are concerned, are going to be tabled and made available at the next meeting. And we have minutes of May 24th, Village Board, and May 24th, Committee of the Whole, as well to approve. Item number C, we have the approval of the monthly reports, Community Development, Police Department, Fire, Public Works. Item D, an ordinance amending the Westchester Municipal Code regarding restrictions on the parking of trailers in the village. Item E, a resolution authorizing the execution of a facade improvement grant agreement between the village and Demetrius Dimitropoulos. Yeah, Mr. D, for the property located at 10410 West Cermak Road. Item number F, a resolution authorizing the execution of a contract between the village and Omega Sign and Lighting for services related to the street light emergency work. Item G, a resolution authorizing the execution of a contract between the village and Winkler's Tree Service related to a multi-year tree maintenance program in the amount of $322,467. Out of A through G, does anyone want anything pulled? I would ask for a discussion on item D as in David. Other than that, any trustees?
Do you want to remove that from the consent?
The consent, yeah, I just
Okay.
have some questions on that. So we're going to do items A, B, B1, B2, B7, B8, C, E, F, and G. Everybody have that?
Got it.
Okay. Is there a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as noted?
So, second.
Okay.
Tommy.
Tommy and Frank. Roll call, please.
Trustee Yurkovich?
Aye.
Trustee Perry?
Aye.
Trustee Satterfield?
Aye.
Trustee Rita?
Aye.
President Pulido?
Aye, motion carries. Okay, may I have a motion and a second to start the discussion on D, an ordinance amending the Westchester Municipal Code regarding parking restrictions of trailers in the village.
Motion.
Second.
Celeste and Frank. As I read through the ordinance, it's more than just trailers. It's trucks and trailers. So I just wanted to be clear, because I was asked about this the other day. Is it allowed to have a Class B commercial truck parked on private property at all times?
Aren't there certain stipulations for that, for the B-rated trucks?
B, like I said.
Yeah,
B
right.
boy.
There's
So
certain
in other
stipulations
words,
for that, aren't there?
I mean, like my truck is a beat truck.
Right, I know.
Your
but it-
truck,
but
right.
if you have
But
advertisements
a
or
commercial
something on
B
it.
truck, as
Right.
a privately owned B truck, that is allowed. And I just wanted to make sure, because as I read this, I was not clear on that.
The amendment that we made with respect to this is we added the words a trailer to the existing 1132-150. So we did not amend the
Commercial piece.
ordinance with regard to the parking of trucks in and of themselves. We just added trailers.
To
I had
that.
a conversation with the chief after the last meeting that we removed one section of the code but had replaced it with this other section. And in our discussion, we felt that using the term trailer and adding that to semi-trailer covered all flatbed trailers. So that's the only change we
Changed
made.
it.
So,
But when I'm
As we
looking,
sit here, I'm not recalling whether we have any other specific regulation regarding truck parking other than this particular section. But this section says Class D or above in terms of the trucks that are prohibited, unless it's a truck tractor.
When we amended it a couple years ago, didn't we allow for any B plate? Because we had this conversation with vans and.
that's
like-
what I thought. I just wanted to make sure
Yeah.
that we weren't
Right.
prohibiting anything
No, it's
that
D
we
and
hadn't
above.
prohibited
I think,
before.
yeah, I think that's how when we amended it a couple years ago, it was.
So a B plate, commercially owned, can park in a private residence
Yes,
in a driveway.
that's my understanding.
Yes, and the
Yes.
only thing, it can't, there's no trucks on the Sunday. I believe. There was a prohibition, I believe, on Sundays.
In private?
I'm sorry?
Are you referring to
Commercial.
private or on the street?
On the street, on the street.
I don't remember that.
I believe there was some kind of Sunday restriction. So what we're saying here is this is only adding trailers to the D or above restrictions that pretty much are not at all with a D plate. And this would be for tow trucks and, because it was a separate, for Class D or higher, could basically never be parked in a private driveway at all. In addition to that, you couldn't have a tow truck, and you couldn't have like a tractor from a tractor trailer kind
That's
of thing.
correct. So we've got prohibited, we have prohibitions on parking a truck tractor, a semi-trailer, now a flatbed trailer, any truck bearing a Class D license or above, or a tow truck to remain parked on any street in the village or on private property located in a district zone for residential. Then, in the next paragraph, we regulate commercial vehicles and indicate they have to be parked in parking areas located at the rear or side of the property. So there's no prohibition contained in either of those paragraphs regarding parking of B vehicles on private property.
So that's probably covered in the other truck ordinance, I'm guessing. Okay. All right, are we clear on that? There's a motion, a second on the floor for its approval. Jessica, call the roll.
What about flatbed trailers? Is that just for like tractor truck and trailers like semis?
If-
No, it's
It's
not.
all trailers.
It's all trailers.
So they are not allowed to park on the street?
They are not allowed to be parked on the street except for immediate delivery purposes.
Okay, but beach trucks are allowed if they're not commercial, if they're privately owned?
Beat trucks, period, are allowed to
allowed.
be parked on a street,
Right.
except, I believe, the mayor indicated there's a Sunday restriction.
I'll have to review that, but I believe there was a different restriction for Sundays.
Just as a point of order, please hold your
Yeah.
comments for public comment. Thank you.
So that's, the addition to this was no trailers.
Right.
That's
Otherwise,
the only
it's
change.
same,
It's the only
right.
change to the existing ordinance, was adding trailers, any kind,
On the street.
on the street. We clear?
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
it's on the street or on private property located in a residential district.
So you,
So anywhere.
so a trailer with a boat on it, a trailer with a jet ski on it, you cannot park in your driveway.
That's correct.
Well, I don't like that.
You can't park on your driveway either?
Yeah, I mean, I have to
This
say.
restriction is on the street and in residential property.
Or even on my driveway in my yard, I can't park my jet skis. And I
If I-
got a problem with that.
Like in the backyard? You can't park those in the backyard either? There should be some kind of a stipulation in there as to what part of the private property you're able to park your stuff on.
A boat?
You wouldn't have to go get storage someplace just for something like this. I mean, I understand,
If I
trailers.
recall correctly, there was a separate ordinance for
For
boat
boats.
parking.
Right. That
that
was
it
different.
couldn't be in the front, it would have to be in the back.
Right.
And I would imagine no one parks a boat without having it on a trailer.
Right,
Right, so I'm,
we would hope not.
right,
It'd be
right, I mean.
Pretty difficult.
Again, how is it gonna operate? You can't move it in and out if it's not on a trailer.
Well, they
So I
could
think
let you
that was-
somehow, we don't want that, but yeah.
So I'm almost positive that there was
We should
Okay, so let's
stipulation on
table
that.
this until we
Table.
figure
I
it
think
out.
we need to table
Yeah,
this. I'm
Yeah.
not
Discussion.
ready to vote for that. I mean, it
We'll
affects
bring
me
it to active
personally.
next time.
So, do you want to permit
Yeah.
trailers holding boats and jet skis to be parked on private property in a residential area?
Call it recreational vehicles?
Right, recreation vehicles, you were saying, yeah.
That's the question. Ladies and gents.
Yes, I think we need to revisit this.
Okay. Well, there is a motion and a second to
To
discuss. If you would like to table this until we review this, because that's kind of why I said
Yeah.
I wanted to look at this, because there are some things that out there that I was not clear.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking
With
about
as
trailers
well.
for boats and
So-
jet skis and.
Do we need to have either of those tabled?
If somebody moves to table it, then you just take a voice vote by acclamation, and that's sufficient.
Can I make a motion?
Motion
I make
to
a motion
table.
to table, please?
Okay, Second.
Consensus to table this?
Aye.
I think there's more to this.
There's more meat to it.
That's why I brought it up,
I
guys.
mean, maybe we put a limit to it.
Yeah, right.
Okay,
Size
I don't
limit or
want to see
something.
anybody, I don't even
Right.
want mine in my driveway for
so
the whole winter.
we will table this to the next meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then what I would suggest is that all the truck ordinances, all the boat ordinances, anything that has to do with parking of second division vehicles, which are trucks, trailers, boats, anything, be given to us, and then we can have a full picture of what we want. Because I think in passing this, and that was my reason for talking about it, and pulling it out of the regular decision, was there were a lot of questions that
Right.
I had of what's gonna be enforced, and then, well, we really didn't want that to occur. just
Would
like
the
we
audience
heard.
please limit your comments?
So-
Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna table that till our next meeting. So we've went all the way down through G. All right, number 7 on the active agenda, a resolution of the governing body of the Village of Westchester authorizing the execution and delivery of a master equipment lease purchase agreement with PNC Equipment Finance, LLC, as lesser and separate lease schedules thereto for the acquisition, purchase, financing of certain, and leasing of certain equipment with the terms herein provided, authorizing the execution and delivery of other documents required in connection therewith, and authorizing all other actions necessary to the consummation of the transactions contemplated by the resolution. Motion by
So moved.
Carl, second.
They're funny.
Second.
Aye.
Celeste. Any additional discussion? If not, roll call, please.
Trustee Celestino?
Aye.
Trustee Rita?
Aye.
Trustee Perry?
Aye.
Trustee Yurkovich?
Aye.
President Fulia?
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. Item number number 8, manager's report.
Oh, just a couple of things. I do want to echo President Pulia's sentiments about the tragedy in Orlando and just hope that we can become a more tolerant society and try to control the hatred that exists in some of these areas. Wanted to just bring forward, Greg is going to touch on special events coming up, but I did want to ask everybody if you would like to participate in the 4th of July parade, which will be on Monday the 4th. Please get your applications into Katie Finn in the front office as soon as possible. The parade kicks off at 9:30 and is the standard parade route, same as last year. That's all I have for this evening.
Thank you. Michael.
Oh, actually, I do have one more thing
Okay.
that I forgot about. I did want to introduce everybody to Chris Weber, who is our new finance director. Today is Chris's second day on the job, so we welcome him and hope he's here for quite a few years for us. Welcome, Chris.
Welcome, Chris.
Welcome.
Okay. Michael. anything?
I don't have a report, thank you.
Nothing? Board members. Carl.
I
on
just
this
want
one.
to say that we had our monthly electronic recycling event last Saturday. Weather was warm, but the spirits were high. Volunteers were great. Everything went smooth, no issues, and as usual, the company that we are contracted with did a phenomenal job. And there should have been, like I said, we were out of there with no problems this month. Other than that, everything went great. Thank you.
Great. Tommy.
I have nothing.
Nothing? You want to talk about your
Oh,
Get
yeah.
Out and Play Day?
Yep, we did. CAB did have their Get Out and Play Day on June 4th, even though the weather didn't cooperate the whole day. It still was fun for the kids and everything.
Great. Thanks, Tommy. Celestine, anything?
No reports. I just want to thank the board and the fire department for the flowers at my mom's wake. Thank you.
We're very sorry once again.
Thank you.
Frankie.
EDC did meet on Monday morning at 7:30, and we continue to talk about our Pride in 7 campaign, which I'm going to let Melissa talk more extensively about during her report. How's that?
That's good. Okay. Robert. Go around the horn a different way today.
Took me by surprise. Just wanted everyone to know that we had finished collecting all the water samples from the schools and set that in for testing. We should know in about 3 weeks. So we're testing all the schools beyond what we're required to do, testing for lead in all our schools in Westchester. And then in the same vein, we've been passing out new notices for water main repair. We began handing out these notices when we're doing repairs on water mains. This notice is to make all residents aware that the repair work may unintentionally dislodge some of the phosphate coating on service lines. The phosphate coating provides a physical barrier between the pipe material and the water that's supplied to your house. If you do have a lead service line and repair work is done on your block, you could be at risk for some lead exposure. So to reduce your risk, we're asking everyone when there's a repair and we hand out a notice to clean all your aerators on your faucets in your home, to run your tap for several minutes, and don't drink hot water from the tap. This will reduce your risk. You can also buy water filters that are designed for lead removal. Just be aware that not all filters made for your water system are made to remove lead, so read the labels very carefully. Our water supply is free from lead. There is no lead in our water supply. And our water mains are cast iron or ductile iron. However, some homes that were constructed before the late 1960s do have lead service lines running from the house to the public water main. So to test your line for lead, you can call the laboratories we use, which is Suburban Laboratories, 708-544-3260. They charge a small fee for a kit, and they'll mail that to you, and you can take your own samples and mail that back to them, and they will analyze that and tell you if you have free lead present in your system in your house. So just wanted everyone to be aware that we're now passing out these notices. It's a new requirement from the IEPA. So when we do work on a main to repair a break, those within the immediate vicinity, those homes in the immediate vicinity, will receive a notice that we'll put either in their door or mailbox if it's accessible to us.
Robert, while you're talking about water main breaks, and we had 2 this past week, there is discoloration of water. I think people would notice a brown or yellowish tinge. In fact, I've noticed that even in the house, if you don't use a lot of hot water, and if you take off the aerator and you crank the hot water, that you'll get, even in your own home without a break, you'll get some of that orange looking water that you wouldn't normally see when it's blended with hot and cold at the same time. It seems like it happens. And that is rusty water? Is that a health issue? Is that something that needs to be concerned? Or generally speaking, I think when you turn it on and let it run for a little bit, it dissipates. So it could be rust that's inside the hot water tank and things of that nature.
Right. Because there's rust staining in the water, there's lots of iron sources for that. It could be the public water supply. It could be if you use galvanized iron in your house, galvanized pipes. That's typically the primary source of rust staining in water, but not always. When we get a water main break, oftentimes it dislodges iron deposits that are inside the main. About 60% of our water supply mains in our distribution system are cast iron. And those cast iron mains did not have a coating on the inside. After the late 60s, all the water mains that we put in had a coating on the inside. This coating prevents that rust staining. But with the older mains from the 20s, 30s, and 40s, there is no coating, so there is rust inside the main. And the older the mains get, the more likely it is to produce that color. But it takes a disruption of some type. If we have a water main break, it does disrupt that, and it produces this cloud of pigment, if you will, and it gets dispersed through the system. Typically, we try to flush that out, but when they're drawn up into the water system on the service lines, you need to flush your service line. But it could be pipes in your house. It could be a hot water heater causing the rust stains as well. Flushing is good. It's not hazardous to your health. I know of no reported cases where rust stain in iron has caused any kind of toxicity in the public water supply.
And I know when the fire department and public works department are involved in our flushing program, which will be starting probably any day now in certain areas of the village, that we flush out from the fire hydrant to try to get some of that sediment that would normally sit in there without any main break situation to do that. So I know Nick's been on it, and I know there's been some conversation with Jimmy and your staff and that to organize that and do a flush pattern like they do in other communities to get as much as that out to limit the amount of discoloration, which causes angst when you see it, that everybody thinks there's something out of whack. But I think as we do that, we'll limit that to a little bit. Robert did mention about the water testing. The board decided not to wait for the state IEPA or EPA to do another study of studies. And in fact, if you saw the Sun-Times today, the state is looking to potentially mandate testing of all schools. We're ahead of the game, and we're expanding that not only to the schools, but the drinking fountains at Gladstone and some of the other parks that we've hit, and the Park District as well. So we're a little bit ahead of the curve. I think we've been ahead of the curve since Flint in our discussions at the board level and with Public Works, with myself, and the research that we've been doing to make sure that the water that you're drinking is as safe can be. So the water report was in the last newsletter, but they only test for lead every 3 years, which is next year, unless some law changes. So we're doing our own lead testing, so to speak, of the schools, and we will be doing other areas of the village as well to try to get a better pattern and a better testing of all areas and not just specific areas. So we're in the midst of that as well. So, okay. Melissa, hiding behind the thing there.
Yeah, I was hiding. I was hoping you would skip right over me. Just a couple things for tonight. The Zoning Code Steering Committee is meeting on the 21st. We finished up the handicap parking compliance. Most people are pretty much done with that project now, as well as the sign compliance for the non-conforming signs. I don't know if you guys have been by it, but Giordano's already has their sign up, so we'll be ready to reimburse them not that long after this. Also, in terms of the Economic Development Committee, they're doing their, for the Pride in 7 campaign kickoff and introducing the Addison Creek Business District. We're doing our grand opening kickoff event next Tuesday at Lawrence's Fish and Shrimp. So I think we sent out the invitations today. So and that's it for tonight.
Okay, Jessica, anything? Nothing? Gregory.
Yes, as Janet mentioned, I was being part of the Special Events Committee. Just to give you the updates on information or the times and dates that we've got things going. We start our movies this Thursday, June 16th, Rookie of the Year, be in the Westchester Community Center Park. That movie will start at dusk. So we've got June 16th, July 21st, and August 11th, all Thursdays. We're going to have movies, different movies in the park, as we always do. Of course, our block party, July 15th. And 16th, Friday and Saturday. Got our band information up on the website. Music Fest still the same, Saturday, August 6th. With regards to other activities, things going on, I might have mentioned before, the corporate center is working with us and the fire department, us being the village and the fire department, to enhance the radio coverage from within there. Zero cost to the village. They're expending the cost to do that. And since the last time I've discussed this, we've switched vendors, so there's been a little bit of a delay in getting that done, but we want to get it done right. We don't obviously want them spending money in the wrong direction, but we've met with them a couple times, and I've talked to a couple other vendors, try to get that process going, so hopefully I'll have some information for the chief in the very near future to pursue to make sure he's satisfied with how that's going to progress, and then hopefully the corporate center will get us up to snuff there inside in the building so they can communicate top to bottom, tower to tower. The other thing, and I'll bring that up in a future meeting at some point, but I did go to Cook County Sheriff's Department's dispatch center, spoke with the director there. I know you had asked, the board as a whole had asked for me to do so, different dispatch centers, just to discuss options that are out there. As we know, a contract is coming in November with our current contracted vendor, Norcom. So I'll come back to the board when I have a full set of information. At this point, it was just a visit to get some information from us so they could put something together for the board to review. That's all I have.
Great. Thank you. Chief.
I just want to let everybody know that I had the opportunity last weekend to go down to the Special Olympic Summer Games down at Illinois State University, where I volunteered and took part in some of the games, and I was able to wear my uniform down there and put medals on the athletes and things like that. It was just a real moving, awesome experience to see the 4,200 Special Olympians that were down there and participating in the 19 or so different events, and it was really cool. And if anybody ever has a chance in the future to see this event, I really encourage you to do it. It's very moving. As far as the police department goes, everything's pretty status quo. We're having some phones installed into our holding cells for the prisoners, so they can make telephone calls inside the cells. Oh. And that is a system that's free to us, so it doesn't cost us anything. And then they'll collect calls. In the cell, they don't have to board. They can talk to people. They can talk to their loved ones and friends and waste their time away. But the nice thing about this is the telephones record all their telephone conversations, so we can listen to them live or go back and listen to them again in case they say anything incriminating to their friends. And it's all allowable in court. So that's it.
Chief, I'm sorry. Could you give us an update on when the emergency phone outside the building will be activated?
Well, that's already taken place. We've been going since June 6th. We began our first night of not having a midnight desk person, at which time now anybody that needs to come to the police department to see an officer between the hours of 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. every day can simply pick up the emergency phone mounted on the outside of the building that rings directly to NORCOM, our dispatch center, and then they will dispatch an officer to the police department to handle any situation that may happen. So that took effect on June 6th, and it's been a week, and no problems so far. So we hope it continues that way.
Jimmy.
Just to touch on what Greg said about the communication system over at the towers, that kind of all came about, unfortunately, because of 9/11. That was one of the problems they had, was really good communications throughout the whole complex there. So fire service and police services learned through this, and like I said, the corporate center is working really good with us to put in a robust system. So hopefully from all over the campus, we should be able to communicate with each other. And there's two other things. You'll notice we're doing our spring cleaning. We're going to do some planting around the firehouse to make it nice and presentable to the public. Also inside, we're doing some painting, adding a little bit of color in there, which is, so the inside, if you visit us in the next 2 weeks, is a little messy, but it's going to look really sharp when it's done. And then lastly, one of my firefighters, Jason Sudaz, through the Illinois Fire Chiefs Association, was awarded the Life Source Everyday Heroes Scholarship in the amount of $500 to be used towards his fire service education in the upcoming year. So again, looking to improve his education as it goes along.
Good. Thank you. Chris, you're up.
I just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity to be finance director for the village, and look forward to working with all the trustees, department heads, and staff, and the door is always open. So.
Okay. I don't have anything for this evening. Let's see, looks like we have an executive session, 5 Ilix 121C1, to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body. And item B, 5 Ilix 121C11, litigation when an action against, affecting, or on the behalf of the particular public body has been filed and is pending before a court of administrative tribunal, or when the public body finds that an action is probable or imminent, in which case the basis for the finding shall be recorded and entered into the minutes of a closed meeting. So I know we have not been served formally yet by the sheriff, but as a result of our denial of the cell tower at Mayfair Park, Verizon thought in their best interest to file a lawsuit against the village of Westchester in that regard. So I don't know if there's been a court date set, but we're going to be in federal court handling that item. So The board will be discussing that in exec this evening. With nothing else, is there a motion and a second to adjourn the board portion of our meeting this night?
Motion.
Heard Celeste? How about Carl and Celeste? All those in favor of adjourning our board meeting, our regular board meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition, say no. We stand adjourned.